Hawks win in Berlin, 3-1 over Eisbären Berlin. This was just a fun matchup all around. It was expected the Hawks will probably come out on top, which they did, and it was just a close matchup the entirety of the game until like the last half of the third period where the Hawks didn't get the game-winning goal. The Chicago Blackhawks go into Berlin, beating them 3-1. And it was just a good all-around team play by the Chicago Blackhawks, which I expected to see a lot of stretch passes in this game, and they did. But a player that surprised me in the entire game that I will give the first star of the game belongs to Berlin. Sebastian Daum, who played on his head, keeping Berlin in this game. Their goaltender, he was playing strong in net, and he can have now a story for his life, saying he only held Taves and Kane to 1 goal. And that's something to be excited for a goaltender that's not in the NHL. I expected this game to be a higher scoring game than it was, but we ended up getting a pretty average score in an NHL game if you think about it, 3-1. But this was a great game played. And the Hawks did have a total of 3 power plays in the game, and they did not capitalize on any of them. The Berlin PK was blocking shots and keeping the puck away from Alex DeBrincat so he didn't get his one-timer off. If he gets his one-timer off, I would have expected a couple goals on the power play. But Berlin shut the doors down, and we had a good all-around hockey game. Hawks had a double minor from the player who scored the game-winning goal in Alex Nylander by a high stick causing blood to be drawn, so he was sent to the box for 4 minutes. And the Hawks PK came out on top and managed to hold Berlin from scoring to tie the game. No, to get the lead in the game. That's my bad. But let's talk about the goals that were scored in this game. In the first period, there was only 1 goal scored, and it was by your captain, number 19, Jonathan Taves, assisted by number 88, Patrick Kane, and number 91, Drake Caggiula. On this goal from Taves and Kane, it was a beauty. Kane went behind the net on a backhand pass over to Taves, and Taves shoots it right over Sebastian Daum's left shoulder, and Hawks take the lead 1-0 with 52 seconds remaining in the first period. And that was a good play by the by Jeremy Colleton for putting in that line together. They did not have the line of Caggiula, Taves, and Kane for the full period of the first. They started it out with a Nylander, Taves, and Kane. But in the last minute, they decided, let's put Jules out there for this last minute to see if we could get something going to get a goal at least. And they did. Drake Caggiula goes out, and we get a goal to get the Hawks in the lead 1-0 at the end of 1. And that was a great goal by the Hawks to get them out ahead early. Well, not so much early because it was the end of the first. Corey Crawford in net to start the game. He played great. He played the first half of the game, got taken out at the 9-minute mark in the second period, waiting for a stoppage of play. Crow played well in net, and he was showing that this is his net. But we had to have Robin Lehner go in because he most likely is not going to be the goaltender for the Hawks playing against Philadelphia and Prague. So he will need some timing in net because at that point he would be on break from the net for at least 2 weeks. And that's not so good for a goaltender who expects to play more games than this. But that's one thing about being a backup goalie. Even though I would say they'll more so split the net. So they put in Robin Lehner for the last half of the game. But in the around 5:52 in the second period, Eisbären ties it from a goal from backman. And it was a goal from right in the slot. He just lifts it up over Leonard, and good goal for Eisbären. And it's a tied game at the end of 1-1. I liked how this game was playing out. The Hawks in favored and with the shot advantage, and they were actually getting those stretch passes off well. But at that point, the Hawks had 3 power plays, and Eisbären had none. So, I expected a penalty to be called pretty early in the third period for Eisbären to at least have one. And it did happen. At 18, in 2 minutes in the period, Patrick Kane was called for tripping. But the Hawks came out with their PK unit of Carpenter, Camp, Keith, and Cuckoo, and they played well for the first half of that PK, and then they put Taze, Camp, and Seabrook and Mata out there, and they played well. So the Hawks killed the penalty, and we keep playing on. But midway through the third period, Alex Nylander was caught for a high sticking call that caused blood to be drawn, so he was sent to the box for 4 minutes. And the PK came out big. They needed to play strong, and they did. Robin Lehner made a couple big saves in net when needed, and Hawks managed to keep it tied 1-1 during this penalty. Once the penalty was over for the 4 minutes, it was back and forth hockey for a little bit. Then Nylander gets the puck right at the doorstep and scores the game-winning goal to give the Hawks a 2-1 lead over Eisbären. And it was a nice setup because it was assisted by Taze, and it was off the boards and rebounded right to Nylander's stick, and Nylander flips it over the goalie for Eisbären. At the time they switched goalies in the third period, I forgot to mention. And Nylander gets the Hawks a goal to give the Hawks the lead. So then, with about a minute 30 left, Eisbären pulls their goaltender, and David Camp receives the puck in the defensive zone and just shoots it down ice and gets it in net for the third goal for the Chicago Blackhawks, and Hawks win it 3-1. I do like how the Hawks and Eisbären did at the end of the game after all was being done. I respect that. Doing the handshake line. That's what hockey's about. The handshake line is a good thing that the Hawks and Eisbären did. And even after the handshake line, both teams took a photo with each other. The Eisbären players will have stories about this for their lives because, frankly, most of them did not have NHL experience, unlike Maximum LaPierre, and the Eisbären team looked like they just had a fun time. They had this game marked on their calendars probably all off season, waiting to play an NHL team, a historic original 6 team, the Chicago Blackhawks. So I really did enjoy watching this game play out. It was a fun one. Pat Foley sounded like he was enjoying this game. Could have wished that they had the I could have wished they could have done more of the replays with NBC Sports Chicago, but NBC Sports Chicago was using the international feed and using Pat Foley and Steve Conroy to do the broadcast. So it was a fun game all around to watch. And down in the comments down below, I want to hear what your thoughts were from this great, fun expedition game between the Chicago Blackhawks and Eisbären Berlin. And thank you for watching the broadcast. I know you enjoyed the outcome. Hawks win it 3-1 over Eisbären. And most of all, let's go Hawks!